If you've had a bad day recently or even a string of bad days, you're not alone. In fact, one of the skills that's worth building up as a teacher is recovering from a bad day. But equally important is to know what not to do after a bad day. And you can start by avoiding these 5 mistakes. First of all, do not watch an inspiring teacher movie after a bad day in your real classroom. When you watch teacher movies before you started teaching, you probably had a thought like, that will be me one day. I'll be the teacher that never gives up on her students or makes learning fun or relates the lessons to the kids' lives. Now, you're just wondering why the movie teacher only has one class of high school students and why she never seems to grade any papers. Next thing to avoid. On a day that makes you question your career choice, don't talk to people who have always questioned your career choice. I mean, hey, they were only looking out for you when they told you that the pay would be, more or less the way it is. And when they told you that the kids would act, kind of sort of the way they are acting, and that you would feel, more or less the way you feel right now. And they hate to say they told you so, but they told you so. And since they were right about it the first time, they'd like to share a few more thoughts about just what a terrible career choice you've made. Try to avoid these conversations or end them as soon as possible. And in fact, my 2 favorite phrases for ending a conversation that you really don't want to have come from a psychologist and boundary expert named Vicki Tidwell Palmer. And the 2 phrases she suggests are, if someone's saying something that they know is hurtful to you and it's meant to draw you into a fight, you can just say, ouch, and leave it at that. Or you can just say, I hear you. I hear you. And then just don't respond. But try to remind yourself that there was a reason that you ignored this person's comments when you decided to become a teacher. Anyone who didn't understand why you wanted to be a teacher in the first place is just not going to be able to motivate you to teach tomorrow. The third thing to avoid is confiding in any colleague who says, that would never happen in my class. By all means, turn to other teachers for advice. But note that that line is not advice. That is self-serving non-advice that lets someone feel good at your expense. It's also not the mark of a stellar educator, because any colleague who acts like they've always been perfect is passing up the chance to share something meaningful that could help you. And really, what is a teacher if not someone who will share something meaningful that can help another person? Whenever you're looking for a mentor, you want someone who can say, that has happened in my class. It is not an easy problem to solve, but here are some solutions that I've come up with to deal with it. If you're having trouble finding that type of mentor, or if you would just like to hear more of my oversharing about my worst days, you will find that linked below as part of the free New Teacher Disillusionment Power Pack, which is a free series of emails meant to help teachers through the worst part of their first year of teaching. And you will find plenty of oversharing in there, including journal pages that I wrote after some terrible days of my own first year of teaching. The next thing to avoid. Beware of tuning into education politics after a bad day of actual teaching. I started giving this advice years ago when the politics, people were arguing about completely different things. But the basic advice still stands. No matter where you stand in any particular debate, watching people who did not get up at 5 o'clock this morning to teach kids argue about your job has a way of leaving you just frustrated and demoralized because they always miss these little nuances. And on top of that, people also just seem to have the idea that teachers could solve every problem that frustrates them as long as they would just, and then you just insert whatever strong, half-baked opinion the person has at the end of that sentence. And on a day when you already had a bad day doing your actual job, you don't need that. And the final thing to not do is do not stay up super late preparing for tomorrow. I often get asked for the one piece of advice that I give to any teacher, and this is it. Get enough sleep whenever you possibly can. When you haven't slept, you become such a worse version of yourself. You become forgetful, you become impatient, you have trouble thinking critically, and you take everything personally. This is just a rough summary of the huge amount of sleep-related research out there, and I wish I had known it early in my career. My most regrettable moments in the classroom almost always happened when I got way less sleep than I should have. Sleep might also help you get some clarity and perspective on whatever it was that made today so hard. In fact, the best thing you can do on a bad day might be to end that day as soon as possible. Try it. Go to bed early tonight. See how things look in the morning.